Hey guys, this is Dano from Hidden Bigfoot Research Labs, and today we are looking at not this trike, but I'm gonna let y'all know where I'm at with this thing for those who's been following along. This is it started out, I believe, a 1972 or a 1975, maybe a 78 Volkswagen Beetle, and then I cut the body off, disassembled and cut the body off of it right there, and then temporarily there's just one beam coming out. Later I'd like to add more, but the reason I started making these videos, here's the motor that was originally on it. And actually building this trike was, we were an ex-salvage yard back in the 90s. And we still got a couple Volkswagens left. There's a couple things we kept whenever we retired. But 20, 30 years later, you know, those Volkswagens are still sitting there. So, you know, I talked to Dad and let's build something with them. So that's where this one comes from. And I've shown pictures of Dad's, and he's got a fiberglass body kit on his, and he's got the automatic transmission that goes to Volkswagen. Okay, so I live roughly, let's just say roughly 100 miles from Little Rock, Arkansas. We won't say which way, we won't say where, we won't say any of that, you know, for privacy reasons. But I needed to go to Little Rock for a doctor's appointment one day. So I drove this down there. I drove it down that morning and it was fine. And then on the way back, and that was with this engine here. And oh, and a week beforehand I replaced the tapper pan gasket. And then while we were in there, or the tapper pan cover, the valve cover gasket, whatever you want to call this thing. But while we were in there, we realized the mechanic who built this engine, or assembled this engine, he didn't get the head bolt, the stud, he didn't screw in all the way. Because we think it got rebuilt 5 to 10 years before we got it, and then they never got it running completely. They drove it once, something like that, and they parked it and never drove it again. So I had a leaky head just from, you know, or I had chances of a head blowing, you know, before I even could do anything with it. And I may rebuild it later, and that's the 1600 dual port type 2, type 3. I'd have to look. Either way, it's a 1600 dual port Volkswagen engine. And this is the standard transmission hook to this. And then coming back from Little Rock, I blew the head. And I drove it the whole way back. Like, I blew the head like 20, 30 miles out of Little Rock on the freeway. Lost all the power, and I just had to drive it there. Like, I was doing like 35, driving down the shoulder, jumping off in little side towns, I mean, and smoking, doing like 35, and I just kept it, because, I mean, I'm either going to throw it away, these engines are just so old, you can't get parts for them, I mean, you know, they got historical value, yes, but they're obsolete. I hate to say it, for a functioning toy vehicle, whatever, it's just, it's not what it used to be for them. You know, their day has come and passed. But I did have this 1800 laying around, and I bolted it on, and it actually came off of another trike. And which is, you can kind of see it there. I got another picture of it. I should have a video of me assembling this thing. But I got this motor on it, and then I went to there's a little country store there's a highway that goes down a certain direction in a certain way. Like my no Pacific language there. But anyways, there's a country store about 10, 15 miles away. For the test drive, I drove it. I came straight back, and I lost a whole quart of oil on just that one little tiny 20-mile trip. And it turned out most of it was coming from the valve covers again, but the rod tubes were leaking also. I've replaced the valve cover gaskets, and then I went to, there's another little town that's famous for their sweet melons. If you want to Google that, look up famous yellow melons for those who want to look up an Easter egg. And that's not where I live, but it is a place that I sometimes go and visit. But it's a drive. I mean, it's still a good hour and a half away. But I mean, look that place up. Like right when I was entering that little town where the speed limit reduced, I kind of backed off on it. And I think I had a rod start knocking. Now the clutch is kind of in rough shape. Like there was even parts missing out of it. I didn't know if the engine was going to last, so I didn't want to put any money into it. But I'm pretty sure it was a rod knock-in, and I'm pretty sure it's locked up now. It's sad, but I mean, antique parts that ain't been ran in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you can only hope so much. And I might rebuild one later, but the Volkswagen is come and gone, and a rebuild kit is at least $350 at least, and a conversion kit is $350 to $500, and then I can put a motor in that I can get parts for, because I do like the independent suspension that comes with the Volkswagen. I wish it had another gear, but I've looked at projects. I mean, I like the transmission design here, and there are kits to adapt over. But so, since this, and that engine was my last engine, unfortunately. So for the time being, let's wheel this thing out of the way. And I know my shop is crowded right now. There's like 4 people that's got projects going on in here. And I don't like it, but you know, family stuff, what are you gonna do? Alright, sorry for that horrible footage. Okay, we're just gonna park it over there out of the way. And we'll figure out what we're gonna do with it later. We're not done with it forever, but we're done with it right now. I don't want to go with any more Volkswagen engines. But so since I want to go a different direction, and my family's been all about this style, I think I want to change the direction. And what I have here is an 89 3-cylinder standard Geo Metro. And it's got the Suzuki engine, from what I've read. S10? Not S10. G10? Something like that. B10? It had a number. A G10? I don't know. It's the 3-cylinder. But just for shits and giggles, I can always build out like that there. I can always build out later. Let's build a reverse trike. So I'm just gonna pull this in and then just kind of start stripping it down. And let's build a trike real quick, a prototype, and let's see how she drives and how she rides. And I think I would like to make it go hybrid later. I've been thinking about this a lot. And this, you won't recognize it when I'm done, but it's gonna look like a nightmare for a little while, guys. It's gonna be awesome. So let's check that out. Alright, so that's the update with where I'm at. We're about to samurai cut and chop, and we're about to Frankenstein a Geo Metro. Yeah. So alright guys, let's get this started. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and check out the next videos to see what happens. Lates.